I failed. Failure. I failed pretty big time. And worst of all, you guys, is I failed at maintaining. Hello and welcome back to Mindset Matters. My name is Vic, if you're new. One sec, I have an itchy nose. I definitely cut out the part of me picking my nose. I wasn't picking, I was scratching, okay? Promise. So I feel nervous. Today we're talking about failure. And I'm here to admit that I failed, okay? I failed pretty big time. Basically for an entire year, I failed. So this episode's for you if you are someone who is holding back because you're afraid to fail. So to avoid failure, you don't really push yourself to try too hard. If you give up easily after failing because you feel embarrassment, if you have a fear of how other people will perceive you, if you try something and fail, if you put yourself out there in some way, any of the above checks or tracks, then this is for you today. So I'm here to admit that I failed for basically an entire year. So I failed at maintaining and starting really my coaching business, which if you have been a regular listener, you know that life coaching is something that I was pursuing. And, I really tried a bunch of different things and tried to figure out what exactly I wanted to help people with. And we can get into the nitty-gritty details of what exactly I was trying to do, but essentially it didn't go anywhere. And I wasn't able to really kind of maintain that as income, as my job. So I failed at that. I failed in a way in my career. I was feeling unsatisfied and I wanted to quit my job, which kind of led me to do the coaching stuff. And in a way that felt like failure because it's something that I really was passionate about, but it just wasn't what I expected it to be. And worst of all, you guys, is I failed at maintaining my kind of positive, present outlook on life, which is literally the basis of this channel. So I got to this place where I felt like, how can I give advice on how to be present and how to be positive and how to, call in all the things that you want if I can't even take my own advice? So that's kind of what we're going to unpack today. It feels a little bit vulnerable and scary because it's hard to admit that you fail, I think. It can be really challenging. I don't know if I want to get into like all the nitty-gritty, but essentially we can flash back a few years. I was really not loving the job I was in. I was feeling really stuck. I was feeling super burnt out, super drained, and I really wanted to change. Now, this was around the time that I started this podcast, and I was really having fun with it, and I was so consistent. I was uploading every single week, and, I had heard about life coaching, and I thought, I think that's something that I could be really good at, and I would love to help people. And so I really invested a lot of time and money into different programs to become a coach and to learn more about like the business side of coaching and how to start a business and all of that stuff. And to be honest, it just kind of didn't go anywhere. And like I tried so many different things. I tried to make a couple of different types of programs. I tried different social platforms as my marketing. I kind of got to this place where I didn't like social media. If you saw my last episode, I actually quit social media at this point. So nothing was feeling super aligned, I guess. And I think I got to a point where I started to panic because I quit my job. So I quit my job. I moved across the country. And it was kind of like this fresh start. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go all in with this podcast, all in with this coaching stuff. And it's going to work out. Everything's going to align. I was very much in my like manifestation, determined kind of state of my life. And you know what? Something I'm proud of is like, I did keep trying. I tried so many different things. And I think this is a key point. Like, what is the actual definition of failure? Okay. It's like to not achieve your goal, to not achieve success in the goal that you set for yourself. But I think true failure is just getting to a place where you give up or you start feeling negatively about your goal, because I think at the end of the day, the goal you're trying to achieve should be something that brings you joy. And this is a key point. We'll start here. It's like I lost the joy I had for doing it. And I think this is what's a challenge with like hobbies versus capitalism, where it's like, oh, you could be making money doing that, or oh, that can make you passive income, or this and that. And like I think we get so in our heads that like everything in our life needs to make us money. And obviously I was at a point where I didn't like my job. I had quit. So in my head I was like, okay, well, this is it. This is what's going to bring me enough money to survive, and I'll figure it out and whatever. But I got to a point where it was stressing me out and it wasn't bringing me joy. And no matter what you do, if it's a creative thing, if it's making music, if it is some sort of personal business, if it's, anything that you're doing, it should come from a place of joy. And I really did lose that. And I think that feels like the biggest failure of all, really, is like I lost kind of the spark I had for doing the thing. And so I guess the big lesson here is like always connect to your why. Like, why do you want to do something? And if it's something that you're passionate about, if it's something that sparks something within you, then it's worth it no matter what the outcome is. Okay, so let's talk about outcomes. This is going to be lesson number 2. I became so focused on the destination of my goal. Look at my hand. Okay, if you're not watching a video, just the angle of this, my hand looks massive. Okay, focus. Outcomes. I got so obsessed with like the destination, making X amount of money, signing X amount of clients, getting X amount of subscribers on my channel, and these are all things that I wanted as like goals, like kind of goalposts I set. And I think the challenge is like in business, you do need structure, you do need goals, you do need to collect data to know what's working and what's not. But when that becomes everything you look at, you kind of can lose that, again, that kind of creative space or that joy. So here I would say the lesson is detachment. Having desires without attaching too strongly to them. Oh my God, that's a really big spider on my wall. Ooh. Those really fast, like jittery ones? Where did that come from? Okay, wait, I think I need to get the spider. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Update. I didn't get the spider. I went to get a tool to trap it, and now I don't know where it went. It wasn't that big. Here's the thing. I'm not really afraid of spiders, but when they're in my room, it just makes me feel differently, because like when I'm sleeping, ooh, you never know. You never know where they're crawling. Okay, so I was talking about detachment. I've learned that trying too hard at anything actually pushes it away. And I think this is like a kind of law in manifestation too, is like detaching from the outcome. I do believe when things are in our heart and we want things with such pure intention, I do believe that they'll come true for us. However, I think the thing that people get stuck on is like, we think it should happen immediately, or we lose faith when we don't see things happening. But then you're kind of wavering certainty about the thing also tells the universe maybe that you're not ready for it, or that like actually you don't want it enough. And so I think the challenge here is being consistent in your thoughts and consistent in the way you show up. And I think what happened for me was, for a while I was so consistent. I was like, you know what, I'm failing, but I'm getting back up, or I'm pivoting. Like I saw it as pivoting. Every time I would fail, I was just like, okay, this is an opportunity to like correct something. And I think great entrepreneurs, great business people, successful people in general, they don't give up, right? We can think about musicians. I've talked about some different artists on here before where like they have this 10-year journey and they just never gave up. And finally they reach success. And I think we forget that someone's journey to success had all these bumps in the road. We just see the end result and we think, wow, that person's so awesome. But then when we get a bump in the road, we don't always treat it that way and we give up or what have you. So for a while, I was so positive and I was so steadfast and I was like excited about it. But then here's what happened. I wasn't working consistently. I was working part-time and I got to the point where I was like, no, like I'm blowing some money. Like I'm going through my savings. Like I need to make money. And so this hustle to make money kind of took over, I think. And again, I lost the maybe creative part of it, or I lost the like excitement of it. And I think you should never burn your bridges too soon. Like if there's something you really want to do, maybe don't just suddenly quit your job and assume like everything's going to work out. And I knew that I could find a job, you know, even something temporary. So I wasn't worried about that. And my quitting my job was more because I was moving anyways. So kind of unrelated. But it got to a point where I had this pressure to make money. And I think when you're doing whatever you're doing with that as your primary goal, or if that becomes the primary goal, like you're not doing it for the right reasons. Looking back, I was just trying too hard to make something happen and I started getting really stressed, and I was really stressed. And the stress kind of took over, and then this is where I really wavered. Like I lost my passion for what I was doing. I felt like I had nothing else to say. I was in this rut emotionally for a few months where I just felt kind of icky. And I think it hit me also that I had moved across the country. And so coming up on like beginning of this year, I did make an episode talking about my goal this year, which was just to be as present as possible. And I'll be honest, I've had times where I've been really good at this and times where I haven't. But I think January and February, even March, like I think the beginning of this year is a really good example. So what happened was, amidst my failure, I decided, you know what, I just need to take a break. This isn't working. And maybe this isn't actually what I want, because how I'm feeling isn't bringing me joy. It's not bringing me satisfaction. Like I need to take a step back. So I started working at a school. I was still working like part-time, like teacher on call, basically like substitute teaching. But I was at one school really regularly. Okay. And it was going fine. And I thought, yeah, this is great. Like, you know, when you're subbing, you're not planning stuff. You're not as involved with the kids, but you get to meet different classes, connect with different teachers, you know, and then you go home and you don't have to think about it at all. So that part of it is nice. But I knew I had wanted to try teaching high school. Okay. And then randomly I get called into a school to teach. And after one day there, HR reached out and was like, hey, we actually have some positions open at the school. Like, are you interested? And I kind of just thought, I don't know, but let's go for it. And you know what? I really ended up liking the principal. I got a good vibe from the school. And so I took the job. And fast forward to now, I'm about to start there again. School starts this week in a few days. And now I'm working there full time. And I love it. I love the school. I love the students. I love the staff. I've made some friends through work. And the lesson here is like, oh, maybe this was meant to happen. Maybe this was my path for now. You know, and it's not like I can't ever revisit the coaching thing, or it's not like I can never look at what else would bring me joy, but this was something that was meant for me. And if all the things that I thought I wanted had come true at that time, I wouldn't be where I am now. And you know what? I'm really happy with where I am. I'm really happy with how the rest of this year has so far played out. And I think that's this big lesson was like, I just needed to flow with life. Like, I got to a place where I was in so much resistance. And when you're doing anything from a place of resistance, you're making it harder for yourself. So what do I mean by resistance? Like, when you're in a flow state, it's like you kind of allow life to take you where it's naturally taking you, right? So for me, resistance looked like trying to put out different posts on social media to like promote my coaching when I didn't like social media. So this was feeling resistant. I didn't like using the platforms I was using, yet I did it because I thought like that's what you have to do. So that was like one thing. Or just again, this feeling like this just isn't working but still going. It's like, well, maybe I just need to pivot and try something else. So me flowing with life, like this job kind of fell into my lap more or less. Like obviously, I had to have qualifications in it, but it wasn't something I was actively seeking. And I think sometimes that's when the best things find you, is when you're just in the state of like, I accept what's going on. I'm going to flow and I'm going to say yes. And I thought, you know what, like I almost didn't take the job, but I thought, you know what, like if I don't like it, I just don't have to go back next year. But like, I won't know if I don't try. And so me setting aside the podcast and kind of setting aside everything for Mindset Matters was just an opportunity to kind of rest that part of myself. And if you watch my last episode, I've been wanting to get back into it. I've been wanting to pick the mic back up and like talk to you guys. But again, I just needed some life to live. And like, even with this situation, it's like, I wouldn't be able to tell you about this in the same way 6 months ago. Like, I've needed to just let life play out and allow myself to kind of learn and grow a little bit. And it's funny too, because I think even lately, like there's been some situations in my life that have caused a little bit of resistance, or I felt upset about it. And, emotions are obviously human, but I think when it comes down to it, every time I'm feeling any sort of resistance or negativity or feeling sadness, it's like you're just out of the present moment because you're projecting something that you think should be happening or things should be going a certain way. And just if they don't, we get disappointed. And I think that's when being present and living in the moment and just accepting that life is going to be hard sometimes, then you're not in resistance anymore and you're able to kind of deal with when those challenges come up. Like, I am a little bit nervous for school starting. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's always a new experience. You never know who your students are going to be. And like, it's always so busy after summer. And like, I have been trying to soak up these last few days of summer, but I'm also starting to plan and be in school mode. And it's like, it goes 0 to 100. But you know what? It's like, I know that the more present I am, the more creative energy I'm going to have, the more I'll be able to be present with my students and like enjoy building relationships with them. And like, that's the point, right? Like, human connection is so important to me and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think even reflecting on, okay, like let's say my business did take off and I was working with clients one-on-one or in small groups online, like that would be amazing. And part of me is like, wow, like I would love to maybe do that one day. But I think something that's been so special about getting this job that I wasn't really looking for at the time is like, no, but I've made friends through this and I have a lot of in-person connection, which I realize is actually really important for my own mental, emotional wellness, is like being around other people. And if I worked for myself and I was home all the time, I think I would be in a lot of ways quite lonely, or I would need to really push myself to like seek other social spaces, which is definitely possible. So if you're someone who works at home, please get out and, find other communities. I volunteer at a yoga studio once a week, and that's a really nice community thing for me. And I would love to find more community spaces that just give me a little bit of like outside of school social wellness. But Again, I think the point being here is like when you allow life to flow and you stop resisting, like the right things are going to find you. And I think something that I believe in, and I heard once, this is probably on a TikTok a long time ago, but I remember hearing someone say, nothing that is for you will ever miss. Nothing that is truly for you will ever miss. So if you don't get the job you want, if you can't seem to make this project work, like maybe it's just not for you right now, or maybe you just need to try a different approach or give it a break. You know, nothing should feel like there's so much resistance that it's just not working, that it's causing you, frustration and anger and negativity, because those feelings build up and then that just adds stress. And again, when the more stressed we are, the more resistant we are. And it just becomes a cycle. So letting myself let go a little bit, loosen my grip has really, really helped. Another thing I think of when I think of failure is the idea of embarrassment. I mentioned this at the beginning, but what does it mean to be embarrassed? Like, embarrassment's such an interesting feeling because nobody can make you embarrassed. Like, you could do the silliest thing or you could trip and fall on your face, but if you don't feel embarrassed, it doesn't matter what people around you do or how they react. And I think the way you carry yourself, like, if you trip and fall, someone laughs at you and you get up and you're like, oh, whatever. It almost makes them look worse that they're laughing at you, or you laugh with them, or whatever the case. Like, I think when I think of failure, it's like, why am I sitting here? And I felt really nervous to talk about this. Whereas if my friend told me that they were failing at something, I'd be like, you got this. And I wouldn't even think twice about it. But when it's ourselves, I feel like we're so hard on ourselves. We tend to just be our biggest critic. Honestly, embarrassment, it's like, as someone who sees herself as pretty competent, I'm pretty smart, I'm athletic, I'm good at a decent amount of things, okay? I've never liked being bad at things, but it doesn't take me that long to like pick up a new skill or learn something. So when I do fail, it is challenging, but I think the more you fail, the easier it becomes. You kind of get used to it, and you start to not see it as failure, but you just see it as an opportunity to like fix something. Like, think of it like you're doing a puzzle. Like, if you put a piece and it's not the right piece, you just take it out and you try another one. Like, that's what kind of failure is. It's like you just try a new puzzle piece. That's it. So I'm going to wrap this here. I hope you got something from this. I hope that you can look at failure a little bit differently. Everybody fails. I think that's another comforting thing, is like, everyone fails at something. Even the most competent people, even the most talented, like, sometimes you're going to fail. The true failure is giving up, I think. And again, taking a break isn't necessarily giving up. If you're feeling so resistant to something, like, that was something that I felt. Oh, I see the spider. I'm going to have to grab him after this outro. Right? See, I didn't resist. I let the spider be and it came back out. So I think that's all I have to say. I'm going to grab the spider. You got this. You can do anything. I believe in you. And I will chat with you soon. Bye. That's a really far zoom.